What is up, gamers? In this video, I'll be going over the 5 best premium decks you can build for $50 or less. All of these prices are based off of TCG Player, so if you live outside of the states, then some of these prices might be different. The point of this video is to bring you guys competent premium decks that you can take and play with and still be able to perform well. So first up is Susanoo for Oracle Think Tank. The main idea is whenever you ride Susanoo, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one on top and one on bottom, so you're able to stack your deck to where you can hit a trigger or your Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu or Ichigashima. So they both have the effect that whenever they're revealed from a card effect from your deck, then you bind the top card of your deck and give your Vanguard plus 10k for the turn. But Amaterasu also gives your Vanguard a crit. So the main idea of it is to reveal as many Amaterasus and Ichigashimas as possible to make your Vanguard really strong. And there's a ton of ways we make this super consistent. So our grade 3 searcher, whenever you bind your grade 3, so Amaterasu off of it, then you can still activate Amaterasu's skill since it was revealed from deck. So you can give your Vanguard 10k and a crit from there. You can reuse the ones you find with Fuyu. Whenever you play it, you can Counterblast one, draw one, choose a normal unit from your drop and put it on top. But if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can put it into your soul instead. You mainly use this to put it on top and put Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu back on top to reuse and give your Vanguard extra power and crit again. For our grade 1 package, we run 4 Miko of the Mirror Moon Sei and 1 Goddess of the Crescent Moon Tsukuyomi. So whenever you ride Sei, you're able to search for Tsukuyomi and ride it as well. And then on your next turn, you can do Tsukuyomi skill to check top 5 and put any card from there into your hand and discard a card. So you're able to find your pieces a lot easier and it just makes the deck a lot more consistent. And then Sei's second effect is also okay on being able to stack your deck. Either try to hit triggers or Amaterasu's off of it. For your strides, you want to run 1 Sterling Witch Momo at least, because whenever it attacks, you can Counterblast 1, flip up a G unit, discard up to 3 cards from your hand, and for each one you discard, your front row gets plus 10k. And if you discarded 3 cards, then it will restand with -2 drive at the end of the battle. So this is really strong because if you flip up Amaterasu's and give your Vanguard 10k and a crit, Momo will restand with all of that, basically get double the value off of the Amaterasu's. Your other stride you can go into is Happiness Gathering Dragon Queen. So flip up a G unit and reveal 2 plus the number of face-up cards in your G zone, and all the normal units get called and all the trigger units go into your hand, and you activate all of the trigger effects. So basically, this card lets you stabilize the game. If you had a really bad early game, then Dragon King is able to refill your hand or your field to be able to either push back or get your cards back to defend with again. And it activating your triggers lets the deck be able to sack a lot of crits more often. And then the way you close out the game is with your Ichigashima, because it blocks grade 0s and G guards from the opponent. And you use Brilliant Witch Popo since it can be a 22k rearguard attacker and they can only call grade 0s to guard with on that, but Ichigashima blocks grade 0s, so it's an unguardable attack. If you want to learn more about this deck, this is directly taken from Ashel Susanoo's YouTube channel. He is a Genesis and Oracle Think Tank 2 trick, and basically, no matter the meta, he will top with those decks in most cases. He's really good and has a ton of insight on Oracle Think Tank, so check out his channel down below. Next is Murakumo and Shirayuki. A lot of Shirayuki's cards are hella cheap. Murakumo is constantly in a state like no matter how good the deck is, it will not be expensive. And Shirayuki is no exception to that rule. So the main idea is you use your grade 3 Shirayukis to be able to minus the opponent's power. So you have cool defensive plays with them on being able to minus their powers for turn. But offensively, you use Fantasy Petal Storm Shirayuki to be able to minus 10k the opponent's Vanguard and make your attacks a lot scarier. And there's a lot of cards in here that activate whenever their attacks do not hit. So Joketsugo gives you ways to find more Shirayukis. Lady Silhouette will bot deck an opponent's unit. And Rainy Madam allows you to recover Shirayukis from your drop zone. And you want to stride into Izushi Otome. It has a skill act once per turn. You Counterblast 1, flip up a normal unit, and then you bot deck a normal unit from your drop zone. and you choose 2 of your rear guards and clone them from your deck, and then all of your units with the same card name as another unit on your field can attack from the back row. So Murakumo can clone their units a lot, so this is a super easy condition to fulfill of having a same name unit in play to be able to have multiple rear guard swings a lot quicker. So you have your Excel marker, and then plus you have your whole back row, so you have 7 attacks going at them that turn. And ways we can clone our units is one with Izushi Otome herself, and also Hidden Scroll. So whenever you call Hidden Scroll, you put it back on top, choose a rear guard, and then call 2 copies of it from your deck, and then at the end of the turn, you'll bot deck those rear guards. So you're able to build a board out of nothing with Hidden Scroll, and if you have a ton of soul, you can call more Shirayukis and minus the opponent's power more. You can very easily get the opponent to minus 30k sometimes. Lady Silhouette can also clone a unit, and Juon Chanter can change its name to another unit. And the way you close out the game is with Shiburaku Victor. While it's in G-Zone, whenever your rear guard attacks a Vanguard and the attack doesn't hit, then you can Soul Blast 1 and call Shiburaku Victor out. How this works is you attack with your rear guard, and we'll say the opponent's at 5 damage, because that's when you usually go for this play. Then they block the attack, then you'll Soul Blast 1, and then call a Shiburaku Victor out, and then attack with Victor, and then they block it, and then you call your second Shiburaku Victor from G-Zone on top of the old one, and then the old one will go back into the G-Zone, and you can do the whole play again. So basically for each soul you have, you're able to have extra attacks with Victor. If you want to learn more about this deck, TIE Fighter did a really good in-depth guide on it a couple months ago, and he will usually do Shirayuki deck profiles pretty frequently, so I highly recommend his channel. And here's the deck code. Next up is Tachikaze. So this build I completely yoinked from Cardweeb's Twitter because he's been trying out Statacrack Dragon, and the deck just happened to be really budget in the process. So if you want to learn more about Tachikaze, I highly recommend following his Twitter and his YouTube. He has a really in-depth guide about Tachikaze, is public, and is like 80 pages long. So I highly recommend checking out his stuff. But for this list, the main idea is to ride Anger Blader, and you have Sweeper on rear guard with a bunch of equip gauge already on it, and you just attack for a lot of power, and you have a ton of attacks on your first grade 3 turn. That is one mode of this deck. The other one is with Spino Driver, and you use Regiodon and Blue Sprint and retire them off of your skills and use their effects to call the equip gauge out in front of Statacrack Dragon or on an Excel marker and have more power and extra multi-attack from these effects. Typically, the Spino Driver route has more advantage you get out of it, and Anger Blader has a lot more power that goes with it. So we utilize Regiodon and Blue Sprint as ways to multi-attack. We have ways to retire our units through Mega Rex and Sonic Noah to be able to activate Regiodon and Blue Sprint more often. And then we have ways to set up easier through Delifo Pyro and Savage Shooter. So the deck is really solid and consistent at what it does. The G-Zone is also really good. The first strat is Gluttony Nebulos, where whenever it becomes engorged, you retire 2 of your opponent's rear guards, flip up a G unit, and either retire or send 5 equip gauge or rear guards to the drop zone, and he'll restand on the attack declaration. So you have 2 Vanguard swings, and you blow up your field and be able to activate a ton of effects off of it. And then while it's in your G zone and face up, you can Soul Blast 1, put an equip gauge from the top of your deck on one of your rear guards, and that rear guard is considered engorged. The engorged part doesn't matter in this variant, but it does matter in other Tachikaze builds. You mainly just want to get the equip gauge as a way to put on the Sweeper or other units that will utilize it well. Your other main stride is Jiangcha Raptor. So whenever you call a rear guard from a hand, you can put 3 cards from your drop zone as an equip gauge under it. Only once per turn though. And then on attack, it's basically the same as Anger Blader, except it doesn't give the units power. Instead, you retire an opponent's rear guard for each one. So it's basically just a beefier Anger Blader and is able to control the opponent's field and set up easier. While Anger Blader is a more powerful all-around card, can potentially set up multiple rear guards. here is the deck code for this list. Next up is Nova Grappler, and it's Ashura Kaiser. So this is my exact list I posted about 2 months ago, and it still functions basically the same. So if you want to see more details about card choices and how the deck functions, then I highly recommend going to that video. If you're just interested in Nova Grappler in general, then follow my channel. I post a lot of content for Nova Grappler on here, and I plan on doing some more big things in the future. The main idea though is to ride normal Ashura Kaiser and then stride into Merciless Dragon and use all of your resting and restand effects to attack with Merciless Dragon as many times as possible. And then once you're almost gassed out, then you'll use War Deity from hand to superior ride it, and then War Deity can stack your deck and be able to restand all of your rearguards at the end of his battle. So we abuse this by using Brutal Jack and Bare Knuckle Honest as ways to rest units and stand units. Furious Puncher is a good stand target while also being able to stand other rearguards. And then Gunston can give your board resist and itself rest. Reason this deck can get out of hand though is because of Extreme Battler Sazanda. So while it's on an Excel marker, then whenever one of your other units stands by an ability, then both that stood unit and Sazanda get plus 5k until the end of the turn. So this is really strong because you'll constantly be resting and restanding your rearguards throughout your main phase, and Sazanda is able to keep giving those units power. So by the time you go into battle phase, then they will be really strong naturally already. And it'll also give power to Merciless. So each time Merciless restands, he will get bigger even without hitting triggers because of Sazanda. Here is the deck code. The last deck on here, it is Great Nature and Big Belly. So you want to ride famous Professor Big Belly as your main grade 3. And you mainly use him for his first effect of whenever one of your rearguards is retired by an ability during each battle phase or end phase, then you get to draw a card. So this is really strong because you're able to go into strides that will retire a bunch of units at once. And then Big Belly will draw you a bunch of cards at the end of the turn, since you will de-stride first and then blow up all your rearguards, and then Big Belly will see all of the units get blown up. So your main stride is Caladrius. Act once per turn, you can flip up a G unit and all of your front row rearguards get plus 10k, and at the end of the turn they will retire. And whenever he attacks, you counterblast one, choose one of your rearguards with 30,000 or more power and stand it. Then it gets 3-card guard restrict until the end of the turn. So this does multiple things. One, it's a free way to give power to your front row and blow up a bunch of units or Big Belly at the end of the turn. But two, it can also be insanely powerful in combination with Talented Rhinos. So Talented Rhinos has success 20,000, so whenever a rearguard's power becomes 20,000 or higher, then Rhinos becomes successful for the turn. And while he's successful, he has plus 4,000 power, and the opponent cannot guard with grade 0s during his attack. If you go Excel 2, then Rhinos will be 16,000 on the Excel marker, and then you will do Caladrius to give your front row plus 10k. So Rhinos will be 26, and then through his own effect, he'll be successful at that point. So he'll get plus 4,000 and be at 30,000, which is the power threshold you need for Caladrius to be able to restand it and give it 3-card guard restrict. So the idea is to restand Talented Rhinos with Caladrius and give it the 3-card guard restrict, while Rhinos also has grade 0 guard restrict on. And then we can abuse this more with other restanders in the deck. So Amazing Professor Big Belly can restand something at the end of the battle he attacks. Then Crayon Tiger, whenever it attacks while boosted, then you can stand one of your other rearguards and give it plus 4k. So between Crayon Tiger, Big Belly, and Caladrius, Rhinos is able to attack multiple times in a turn with a very heavy guard restrict. It's just really hard for the opponent to deal with. And then this is made consistent because of Mini Belly and Mika Saburo. Mini Belly is just your generic grade 3 searcher. And Mika Saburo, whenever it's placed on rearguard during your main phase, you give one of your other rearguards the skill that whenever it's retired during your end phase, you search your deck for any grade 3 and add it to hand. So this can do multiple things. One, it can find Big Belly to ride. It can find Rhinos in order to have your restanding power play. It can find Amazing Professor Big Belly to restand your other units. Or it can find your heals even. If you're trying to survive the early game, then Mikasaba is able to search for your heal that you can then use to defend through the opponent's grade 3 turn easier. And the ways we can activate Mikasaburo early is through Compass Lion. He's a base 13k grade 2 that at the end of your turn, you retire one of your rear guards. And then a standard promo, Candelaria. So at the end of your turn, you retire it and call 2 plant tokens to rear guard. So you can give your Mikasaburo effect to Candelaria, and Candelaria will pop itself at the end of the turn, and you will able to search for your big belly. If you want to learn more about Great Nature, I highly recommend following Solemn Vanguard's channel. He does a lot of Great Nature deck profiles and is also one of the best players in the game. And there's also Devlin Cassidy, who is a Great Nature main. He does a lot more generic content, but he does do some Great Nature stuff also. And that is it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully this video lets you play with some pretty good premium decks without breaking your entire bank account. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one.